Elizabeth. Yep. She has been founding the meeting. Yeah. 84. Yeah. 84. Yes. It was 84. Yeah. Wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Yeah. Okay. So this is the biggest university. This is. I don't know. But again, it was founded in our theater. We're talking about theater. Well, it was in Plaza. International Park. We got the idea. Such great music and their language besides. And it was social. I was also very much encouraging Oh, exactly. I mean, yes. Yes.
Okay, so my phone is this one is yes.
Oletko koskaan paljon asiaa, jos mietitään,
Joo, tai sitten yhteydessä. Mä kyllä osaan puhumaan, että enköhän mä aina jotakin.
Hungarian power.
Stay with one of these.
Ootko pitkään Helsingissä?
Ihan just.
Okei.
Kivetyssä mä selvästi vähän tuosta.
Lähetkö sä sitten?
Lehmällä joskus. Mä en maksanut ja paljon.
Joo.
Lähden tänä iltana.
Okei.
Kaikki ylppäinen alueena.
No niin, joo. Timo is a very remarkable man in the Finnish puppetry. Yes.
So is me.
You are more. You have
Remarkable
been,
person.
no, okay, but anyway. You should say that to him. I can be nearby yours.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
En osaa sanoa mitään osaan, mutta tässä hetkessä en osaa sanoa mitään islanniksi. Olen yrittänyt sitäkin.
Welcome everyone in our very family-like setup today. I would like just to open our today's puppet days. The first one, hopefully next year we can do it again. And I will definitely give the floor to our guests for today and have a wonderful workshop together.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Cantola, and together with my wife, Erziga Tomac, and our dear friend, Noli Choma. Soma. Trying to pronounce Hungarian correctly. We've been working on a EU mobility project exploring new ways of interacting and involving the audience. I was the musical director. I'm a musician and a performer myself. And for the introduction of the wonderful panel, I will hand over to my capable wife.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. This is our opening program of the festival. We're thrilled to explore the intersection of puppetry, literature, and music. So we try to think very broad and welcome to our guests from across Europe. Welcome Nori Toma from Hungary. She is a children's author. Timo Vanti, he is a puppeteer and the Finnish Unima's chairperson. Mila Risku, she is a puppeteer, musician and pedagogue. And then myself. And then we've got a lovely friend, puppeteer, who is from Iceland, Greta Klav. She is the Icelandic Unima's chairperson. Welcome, Greta. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
So I've got lots of questions about seeing how many changes there are around the world. Nowadays, lots of changes because of the digitalization. I think we don't have to prove, because everyone sees how children's attention span is changing. And then every professional tries to accommodate their practice. This is the same with the literature. This is the same with puppetry, theater, music. And me personally, I've got lots of questions. And then I think I'm lucky to say that with my husband, we have lots of discussions on the topic. But then we thought, why don't we bring it out to the bigger audience and then invite professionals, and then let's try to get the bottom of this topic. So let's start, and then let's see where we end, and then whether we can find some sort of solution to these emerging issues. My first question is to all of you, and then let's see who would like to start. How do you see the role of literature and performance in shaping today's children's imagination and identity. Anyone would like to volunteer?
The role of literature and
How do you
purpose
feel
in-
the role of literature and performance in shaping today's children's imagination and identity? Does anyone have a...
Well, I can start. Break the ice. I think it's absolutely, at least as it has been, like absolutely the especially literature has been somehow the basic and the kivijalka, the basis
And foundation.
foundation,
Yeah.
and then comes after all these others. For me, at least, been, I don't know, is it nowadays the same? But at least what I think myself as a child, the books were those which were starting my imagination.
Yeah,
Maybe then pictures or cartoons or visual arts.
yeah,
Maybe theater came even later, and puppetry even more later. But like somehow I feel myself that the books, literature has been the basic. But I don't know how is it nowadays.
do you see any difference? Do you feel that it's changed, that the books, the literature gives the foundation for children, developing their imagination?
There is a lot of books for children nowadays, maybe even more, and
Yeah.
compared to my childhood. But
Yeah.
I don't know what is the role of them exactly
Okay.
nowadays. I try to always buy as a birthday present or Christmas present a book to a child. But I do my best to. I don't have own children, but all my relatives and friends' children, I try to
Yeah.
always give a book to them. That's what I do. And then I try to ask afterwards that have you read them or that some of them are have been like inspiring to them, but
Yeah.
not each of them.
Yeah.
Of course.
Just a technical question. Greta,
Yes,
can you hear us? Can you follow the conversation?
perfectly. Thank
Lovely.
you.
Feel free, as soon as you have something that you would like to add, feel free to to say. Nori?
First, I just want to thank you, Mark, who will translate because I cannot speak so good English, so I speak in Hungarian and he will translate, and thank you. Szóval abszolút egyetértek, hogy megváltoztak a könyveknek tehát másmilyen könyvek vannak, igen, rajzosok, meg sok illusztrációval kell készüljenek.
So Nora absolutely agree with the statement that nowadays we need different kind of books with more illustrations and make it more interactive for kids.
A gyerekek pont a digitális dolgok miatt nagyon hozzászoktak a gyors változásokhoz, nem tudnak sokáig koncentrálni.
As we live in a fast-paced world, the attention span of the kids reduced drastically. So this is why we need to make adjustments in the book also.
Ez nehéz, mert sok klasszikus történet ugye hosszú, és itt el lehet mondani a nagy indián könyves példát, hogy mondjuk egy 11 évesen elolvastad, most már biztosan nem.
And it's very difficult because most of the books are a bit longer. So for example, if you are 11 years old nowadays, you didn't read the big Indian book, which is a really long book. So you have to adjust for the length of the books and make it shorter.
Yeah. És ahogy mondtam, kell az interakció, valaminek történnie kell a könyvben, hogy a gyerek végigolvassa, különben felén érni.
And as it was mentioned already, there should be some happening in the book already at the beginning, because if it's not interesting for them enough, they're just gonna put it down and they're not gonna read it anymore.
És ez a probléma, amivel aztán kérdeznék tőlük, hogy mennyire tapasztalják az előművészetben, hogy ugye a gyerekeknek az agya változik meg, tehát egy fizikai változás jön létre ezek miatt, a digitális dolgok miatt, és azt ők hogy tapasztalják, és az mennyire gondolják változtathatónak, vagy hogy lehet hozzáigazodni.
So this problem creates many questions, and I would like to ask the others that how do you experience this kind of effect of the children's brain, this physical change during your shows and interpretations due to the attention span time and stuff like that. So how can we adjust our shows for these kids?
I think it's a very, very interesting question, and then it brings another aspect, which is the cultural aspect, because we are touring around the world, so I can see difference between Hungarian children's reaction here in Finland or UK. Greta, may I ask you, do you see difference between Iceland? Is there any specific reaction how Icelandic children react to performances, or do you think it's kind of the same?
In terms of shortened attention span, and I want to backtrack just a little bit because I was thinking about your first question about the context of literature and with children. And I think that literature is a great gateway for us in theater. It's with more and more theatrical adaptations of children's literature being prominent on the stage, especially in puppetry. It gives us a really nice opportunity to become sort of curators of stories. As a parent, I find it really difficult sometimes to sort through all the children's content that is available. There's a lot of stuff that is being AI generated and maybe doesn't really have any real meat to it in the end. So being able to sort through this, find children's literature that has the strength and the meaning behind it that can have a strong impact on people's lives and be challenging. And I think that's a real role for us theater practitioners, is to find those stories and be able to create adaptations of those and present them on the stage in another medium, which maybe can address or reach people who don't have the attention span for reading at the moment. You know, Iceland is the ADHD capital of the world. It's very prominent here. It's just in the genes. And so I find that in creating work for children, it's important to keep in mind that the way the brain is processing information, and so a heavy text-based approach can be very complicated and maybe not the best way to reach out to it. But if you can transform that text into something visual and movement and poetic, I find it really reaches the audience, even if we're saying that people have short attention span. I have noticed to that point that we've gotten shorter over my career. We used to be able to make, an hour and a half, 2 hour long show, and now it's very much within the festival length format almost always. So always keeping it an hour and less. I don't know if that's a reflection on digital society or if that's just the way we're all living more rapidly. But I would say that.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting to see how the society changes and how the performances, and then as you mentioned, the length of the performance changes. And how does the Icelandic cultural context influence the way of children engage with stories and puppetry?
Well, storytelling is quite embedded in Icelandic cultural context. It's kind of in the bones of the place. So from sagas to the lullabies to folktales and family stories told over coffee, it's the narrative storytelling is a central component of Icelandic culture. So Icelandic children grow up in an environment where imagination and the unseen, I guess you would call it, are given a lot of space and respect. When you're living in a culture where elves could be under a rock, where every mountain has a story associated with it, it creates a very fertile and vibrant space where children are ready to receive and ready to believe and wonder and to listen.
How much? Sorry, can I just interrupt you? Sorry for that. How much did the Icelandic culture influence you? Because I know that you are originally from US. So did you experience a foundational difference between your approach to life, to theater, children's culture?
I'm not sure. It's such a long shift, you know. These changes happen over such a long period of time. I think it would be foolish to say I am not fundamentally different from my experiences of moving between different countries and absorbing their cultures. One thing I think that is true about living in Iceland is this respect for imagination and this value of play groups and almost introspection that's encouraged. And that's it's very beautifully compatible with puppetry theater. So, you know, the Icelandic tradition of the folk, the hidden people, this aligns very powerfully with the metaphors that puppetry can use to tell modern stories. I guess you're asking a little bit about my own work, and I guess now I am very much guided by, I suppose you would say, principles that are inherently Icelandic, which I would say are simplicity, connection to nature, community, and a strong sense of collective. So I try to honor those like quiet spaces that maybe I wouldn't have explored before when I was living in a larger community, a larger environment, a more urban environment. And I try to honor those quiet spaces that children and breathe and have space to learn in the process. And puppetry really allows for that. So it really slows things down and invites contemplation, and it opens a space where emotion and wonder can thrive. And that's what I try to do through my work, whether I be adapting a piece of children's literature or creating original plays.
Okay, thank you. It's quite interesting always to hear people's view on literature life, especially if you change countries, if you live in a different culture. I experienced that the same. I moved countries a couple of times, and now I'm trying to learn and feel and accommodate to the Finnish culture. And then I had a chance to get to know you guys, puppeteers. Timo, I would like to ask, in your work with Suomen Unima, did you experience, or as a puppeteer, did you experience any changes, or have you noticed in how children relate to puppetry in Finland over the years? Has it changed? Is it the same? It's been for a couple of decades for you?
I don't know. Has children changed so much, or their relationship to puppetry in general? I think all people's relationship to live culture has changed somehow. Like that, I think it's a problem in also grown-ups, adults' problem also that this connection that all theaters say the same. It's, people don't reserve tickets, and book selling is in problems, and everything is like what has been like in a good situation is in crisis some way in Finland, at least many say. I don't know is this the concrete situation when the puppeteer goes to in front of children, audience with children. I think they take the show or not take. The show can be good or it's not so good. Or I don't know. Is it compared? I don't know. Does the rhythm of the show, does it have to be quicker nowadays? I don't feel that way. It can be very slow rhythm, and there still can be quite good impulse rhythm. And I don't feel that it doesn't have like more rhythmical or a lot of changes in general, it's nice that there are a lot of changes in theater. I think it has always been like this.
Yeah, great.
I think I agree with Timo completely that it's not really, I don't really think it's the place of the role of theatre and children's literature to sort of dumb ourselves down to meet the digital age. I think we have, we are curators of taste, we are curators of ideas, and that is our role, and that's what we do. And there is a strong push in the past decades for commercialization of children's performances, especially, and I imagine the literature as well. And this fear of tackling challenging or nuanced content. And I think that puppetry in literature could be a counterweight to that, and or at least has the potential to be the opposition to what our digital society says we need to be, and offer the reality of what we actually are.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mila, hello.
Yeah, my experience of been performing well.
Couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I started studying puppetry in '94, so quite a long time ago. But like being a professional for over 25 years and doing my shows, I actually don't think that the kids receive my shows at least the same way.
Same.
I mean, if you do a good show, of course, you need to have a sort of finger feel of every audience is a bit different. So you just need to, how to say that? Difficult to say it in English, but I think you need to be present, and sort of feel the audience and adjust every performance to fit this audience. And I think it hasn't really changed that much in a way like seeing live shows. And I think nowadays it's very important that kids see puppets that are made by someone, handmade, as the opposite to be a counterweight to the digitalization, because it's good they see live shows, even if they wouldn't be that perfect always, but it's good to.
And once children are there, and then the show is good enough, then you can grab the attention.
Yeah.
But how about the interest?
Interest.
Do you have enough shows? Do you have enough opportunities to play live?
I think the interest is there, but it's also that there's not necessarily so much money in the communities, and also a famous fact that artists are not too good at selling their work. So that's my biggest
Unfortunately.
But I think there is interest. What I have noticed over the years that people often ask me, do you do puppetry for adults or children? And I do puppetry for people, but it's the kids are receiving that. It's when you win the adults, then it's a good thing that they realize. Oh wow, I haven't been laughing so much for a long time, and they kind of surprise themselves.
Or sometimes when a puppet comes alive, then they can be so not shocked, but very surprised.
It's like, I didn't realize this. So it's in a way we maybe
the
don't.
Surprising element of the puppetry, definitely.
Yeah, maybe we don't.
Adults as well.
Yeah, maybe we don't need to surprise the kids, but to convince the adults. Maybe that's. But I've been speaking so long already.
I was thinking about this, how children change. Maybe there has always been like children who are not able to concentrate on one thing. Also in my classroom was some boys and girls who were so restless. But nowadays, maybe the teachers or adults come to say to perform it. By the way, we have kids who have really big problems about this. They have problems to concentrate on one thing. But there can be surprises. A boy who is really restless or he has some kind of ADHD diagnosis or something, then suddenly he's sitting all the time there.
Yes.
So you never know actually how does it affect.
Yeah.
Could I jump in here? Because I find it very interesting because I think it's not necessarily just the concentration factor, because I think it's not good to just kind of blame the children and go, they can't concentrate. I think it's also the expectations. There are interesting studies which I'm following very, very closely, neurologically and pedagogically and psychologically, on the effects of digitalization on the upcoming generations, where children are simply learning in life, even if they concentrate a lot. That they were in this one discussion discussing, for instance, that learning through apps and games and things, they're getting used to interactivity, so that if they get a right answer, something happens. Whereas unfortunately, I apologize for our generations and beyond, you would read, you would gain the information, and nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also a challenge for artists and educators. Obviously, that'll come later in the discussion, but to try and which is what we were exploring, how to make it a little bit more interactive, so that traditional forms of performance or education would kind of start having some sort of interactivity. Because I can also respect that from a young person's point of view. The world isn't what it was for us, and if they're used to, well, this thing on my iPad gives me points if I get the answer right, but when I read a book, I just finish reading the book and nothing happens, and it can be challenging. It can be challenging, and I think it's a very valid thing for us. I absolutely agree not to cater or like cheapen the product for the sake of entertainment or gaining the attention of children, but actually respect the fact that they're growing up in a different environment and trying to meet their expectations of, well, what do I get now that I read that? And maybe that's an oversimplification, but I find it very interesting that since they are growing in that reality, which we never experienced as children, to maybe try and because I think it's invaluable to try and inspire young people to get into puppetry, to try to get in. I face it in music all the time, where people are now used to pressing one button and an orchestra plays. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with 30 years of one instrument, of endless hours of practice, and crying most of my childhood. But so it's changing. So whilst trying to inspire them to get into the arts and be the next generation of puppeteers and authors and musicians and pedagogues, I think there's a good challenge for us all, how to challenge the digital elements and show, because I think the value of, for instance, puppetry is there is something in a real object coming to life in a real space in your real life, as opposed to on screen. And I think for me, I didn't grow up with puppetry. I think one of the most magical things still for me with puppets is it seems like magic. And there's this thing that comes to, whether it be a traditional puppet or an object, it comes to life right in front of you, and it's a little bit like a magician making a bouquet of flowers disappear. It's like, oh, but now it speaks, and you know it doesn't speak, and I think it's a very good challenge.
I've got two questions from your point. Like, I think that what Nori is discovering now with her new book that she just published. Do you have the book here?
Oh, no.
I think that connects very well on this way with children, because what she did, that she's going to talk about that very shortly when she brings her book here. It's exactly finding the way. It's an adventure book, but at some point, the children, they have a chance to decide which way the story should go. And then I'm kind of trying to find a way how we could transform this way of thinking into puppetry. And also along this way, I will have more questions, but then Nori, would you mind talking about your recently published book a little bit? It's in Hungarian, but so hopefully it's coming in Finnish and English as well.
Ez egy irányválasztós mesekönyv, amiben ilyen regiszterekkel vannak az oldalak.
So this book, as it was mentioned, is based on decisions of the reader. So whenever you read the page, at the side of the page there is like a symbol. So at the end of the page you have the opportunity to choose to which symbol you are going to, and based on your choice, the story continues always in a different way.
És kifejezetten, amit említed, hogy a ADHD-s gyerekek, akik nehezen tudnak koncentrálni, ezek rövid történetek, rövid szakaszok.
So as it was mentioned, the people who has ADHD or short attention span, the stories are directly made on the way that they are very short. So it's 1.5 page about, and this is enough to get what it's supposed to mean, and also the kids are not putting it down because it's still interesting for them.
Igen, érdekes egyébként így pszichológiai szempontból, melyik kérdés, vagy melyik irányt választják. Ez is érdekes.
And it's also very interesting that from the psychological side, that based on which question they're gonna continue the story.
És tehát az a lényeg, hogy nem mindegyik, tehát vannak olyan választási lehetőségek, ahol vissza kell fordulni. Tehát nem viszi végig mindegyik, mint a gyereket a megoldásig.
And the interesting part is that in some decisions, the book takes you back to previous pages, so it's not always going forward, but if you decide on a way, you have to go back, and then the history repeats itself, and then they have to make new decisions again.
Hogy ezt is, így is ebben is lehet segíteni, hogy megtanulni ezt a kudarcot, mert ez is kevés van mostanában, hogy nem baj, ez így történt, de újra történt.
And it's important because nowadays failure has a different meaning for the kids. So based on the story that sometimes you have to return to the previous happenings, it teaches the kids and the reader that it's okay to fail, it's okay to start over, and it's okay to go forward from that point again.
De még annyi, hogy itt is ugye nagy illusztrációk vannak, és ugye van benne interakció, és rövid a szöveg, úgyhogy ez az, ami miatt ezt így most szeretik.
So why it is successful at the moment is because it contains bigger illustrations than normal books. The stories are short, and it's pretty interactive for the reader. So these components makes the book popular at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can it happen that a reader read this version and then he start to interest all the others too, and he or she reads them all variations?
Kiszámolták nekem 100-nál több variáció van a könyvben, ha szeretnél végig olvasni.
So it was actually counted, and there are more than 100 variations of how the story can go. So yeah, the kids have the opportunity to go through all of them if they want.
Okay, so it's every time when they start reading the book, it's kind of a new adventure for them.
Yeah, maybe. Not exactly.
Yeah, but sometimes children like repetition.
Yeah.
You know, it's very important, but at the same time, it provides new things as well, a new engagement.
Szülőknek is tök érdekes volt. Tehát ez is egy érdekes tapasztalat, hogy a szülők, ahogy a bábszínházat is szeretik a szülők, és hogy mondta, hogy jól mekkorákat nevettünk, hogy a könyv is így a szülőket is bepörget.
And it was a really nice experience that actually these kind of books are also interesting for the parents, because they get excited that, okay, here is this book, and okay, so how many things can still happen here? So it also involves the parents are part.
És volt, hogy összevesztek a gyerekkel, tudod, és úgy, hogy ne arra menjünk, megkérdem, akkor arra menjünk.
And there have been cases when the kids and the parents get into argument to which path actually should be chosen. So there wasn't always an agreement that, okay, which way we should continue the story.
Oh, okay, so this is not a lullaby book, not that you would like to sleep
No.
before going to sleep,
No.
but definitely good for the shorter attention span children.
To me, it sounds like it can somebody can get so excited about reading this way that she or he might even then grab a thicker book. You never know. It can encourage to
Yes.
start reading more.
Yeah, because I try to, when I teach young children, really young children, music, I try to very much, I formulated my own way of approaching music. Tuition, in the sense that if at a very young age, if I can get them to have a very positive experience with music. I'm lucky enough to have a studio at home, but with a 5-year-old boy, we experimented with drums and synthesizers and guitars and bass and piano and singing and recording it and listening back to it and putting funny effects on it, just so that when I was brought up in the classical musical world, and it was very challenging. Obviously, then we didn't have any tablets, very little television, very little anything. But it was very much my parents telling me I have to. And funnily enough, I had until 18 that I had to study classical music. My mother made me promise. But at 15, 14, I discovered the electric guitar. And as you said, if you have a positive experience, as soon as I found the electric guitar, I was practicing 8 to 12 hours a day, like on my days off. At 2 o'clock in the morning, my mom would walk past my room and go, "Can you please put the guitar down and go to bed?" Because I just suddenly, it was incredible. If I hadn't had the foundation, I don't think I would have gotten into it ever, because it wouldn't have been on my road, down my road. But it's true that if I try to always apply that if I can get them to have a positive experience with music, creating music, they might actually find their own way. And even if the parents want them to play piano, they might find that I'm going to become a drummer because I found that along the way and I love making music, rather than practice your piano. but I think it's tools like this and performances like this, adaptations where we can inspire.
I definitely have a very crucial question to all of you. How we could make puppetry cool for modern
But it is
children.
cool.
It is cool.
It's definitely cool for us. It's definitely cool for us, otherwise we wouldn't be puppeteers. But how we could change puppetry a little bit, how we could bring puppetry closer to modern children. Because they definitely love it when they are very young, early years. But then as soon as they grow older, I don't think that this is a modern phenomenon. Probably it was always a little bit of a problem. But welcome. Any kind of ideas, or what you came up with the direction-changing book of yours? Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I always, when I talk about puppetry to a big group of not little children, but like 10, 12-year-olds, I always say that, has anybody seen the Star Wars? Does anybody like the Star Wars? Because it's full of puppets and masks. Like Darth Vader is a mask figure actually, and Yoda in the old films is a puppet. And Jabba the Hutt is a puppet with 3 people inside it. So this is what I sometimes use. And then they're like, all right, yeah. Well, so this is my secret wild card that I sometimes take. But yeah, just an example. But
I think it's a challenge sometimes for the artists to let go of because we appreciate the art, music. I appreciate people being able to play an instrument very skillfully rather than pressing a button, and just letting that guard down a little bit to go. The Muppets.
Yeah, Muppets.
The Muppets and Dark Crystal and Yoda and things, because like we just conclude that if they at least get interested, they might then find the traditional puppetry, they might find the marionettes and things, and then, oh, this is interesting. As long as it's not a standoffish, because classical music has that very, very big problem that, for instance, in Britain, it's now down to the last, okay, it's a while ago, but last study was between 3 and 4% of the population only are in classical music. There's a danger of it becoming an elitist, quote unquote, kind of like, well, I like rap music. Why would I go to the opera house? But then when they do go, and I think it's more the threshold of going and experiencing it, going, actually, wow, that's amazing, rather than not enjoying it when you're there. I think most kids, even older kids, love puppetry when they see it.
Yes.
I think you mentioned, Mila, that getting the parents to kind of actually go, let's take the kids to go see puppetry. That's another challenge, because parents might think, oh, they just want to see the latest Mission Impossible or whatever, not plugging any movies here, but like some action movie. And so to try and get them to also endorse, let's go hear a book reading, let's buy a book, like you said. Perfect, let's buy a book, let's read it together.
I think
Okay.
just say Greta, yeah.
I think that's a kind of a point that I keep coming back to, Michael, is that I don't think the challenge is really reaching the kids, I think the challenge is reaching the parents, the gatekeepers. And I was reading a really interesting report that was talking about from the age of 8, parents stopped reading toys from the age of 8. They stopped reading aloud to boys. And from the age of 10, they stopped reading aloud to girls. We stopped taking our children to cultural events and activities around the same age. And I think this is where children are being really let down, is we're assuming that they're not interested anymore because we're not providing opportunities for them to go. We're not saying that you have to go. If you ask a 8-year-old, what do you want to do today? I'm going to choose the thing that's the easiest and get the most dopamine. It's sort of the responsibility of adults in society to guide young people into activities and not just let them drift off their own comfort zones. I'm not saying you should never ask children what they want to do, but how can you answer that you want to do something that you've never experienced?
Yes.
So I think this is the key component about what we're talking about is plenty of people are creating interactive shows and things that are engaging to audiences, but somehow it's getting those gatekeepers, bring those kids through the door, and not just in the school context, like actually in everyday life, making culture and literature part of our existence again. And I certainly observe a traditional breakdown of these traditional values of Freudian. I don't see it as often, and I think this is a combination of digital life and also just the huge pressures that adults feel on their time as well. And financial barriers, life is super expensive now. And I will never say that culture is expensive. The other things are expensive. Food is expensive. Gas is expensive. Culture is a totally valid price. How do you convince people of that? That this is as kind of has the weight to invest in it and to invest those hours with your child in these environments, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I was thinking about this cool thing. Maybe classical music has even bigger problems compared to puppetry about being cool in a way, because puppetry is classical music has such big tradition and it's so difficult to change it somehow. We have always been a little bit like radical and revolutionary people. And then I was thinking also this virtual world where young people are. They are a lot of they are creating characters there, or like is it virtual puppetry in a way?
Yes.
What it looks, it's different than what you are, but the inner side of the character is still you.
Yeah.
So it could be open also that way. This is the world that I don't know anything about it, about this virtual world. But as far as I understood, there could be some relationship to puppetry.
Yeah.
Also there.
I don't know, what do you think? What if I propose like a 5 minutes break? And then after, we could invite the audience to come a little bit closer, because we are anyway quite in a familiar setting here. If we can place a little bit, we can move a little bit and we can have a chat. And better like in 5 minutes if you...
And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to.
On siellä.
Because I think my name is Sarah.
Ja sitten se saa.
Sitten se pysyy Sitten me oltiin Helsingissä joo, mä kasvoin puolet Amerikassa sieltä. Äiti kaksoissa koko ajan. Joo, ja sitten äiti lisäksi. Joo, se oli ihan kaksi. Ja sitten siinä jouluudessa niin sanotaan niin että se on semmoista opetusta.
Tosi saman tien hyvä toi ja oikeastaan on nähty tosi aika saanut sen yhdessä. Mutta johan
Se on tosi
on hei hyvä pointti. Mä oon järjestin. Ei mitään etenkään. Kyllä pitää ja sitä voi niinku
meillä se on niin tuntuu, että se on meidän mikä on meidän siellä se on niiden koko elämä. On ihan koulukauden kuin tärkeä asia se niin liittyy. Jos se haluaa tehdä niin se on. Eihän se on teidän teidän Kastakaa itse. Te saatte pitää ne kaikki loistavat tästä. Mutta hän tuo teille mahdollisesti uusia loistavia tempeitä opiskella. Mä oon sen takia, että se on vähän poppuumusiikki. Että ei se ota teiltä pois, vaan sen takia, että se tulee siltä. Ja toi tietenkin vanhus. Mitenkä osaa. Mutta on vanhus, että siellä oli esimerkiksi se rupesi opettamaan. Se rupesi tekemään semmoisia, että siinä polttaa videoita. Ja mä ajattelin, että se oli loistavaa. Eihän sitä kerätty siihen. Ei aina tietenkään tuli. En tiedä.
Mä haluan lähteä heti.
Ei mäkin ollut. Koska sieltähän ne seuraavat askelat ja muut tulee.
Se olisi niin kuin vähän rakastaa.
Joo. Joo. Ja semmoisena just, että se on liian vaikeaa, se on mikä se on liian kaukana. On se kanssa. Niin. Mutta se just... Onko se Helsingin? Mä mietin nyt just, että voiko mä opiskelemaan tällä kunhan mulla on omat terveydet luonnossa. Koska sitten opettaja painottiin niin hirveästi vaarallista. Joo. Musiikkiteatterikoulutuksen peruskoulutuksen. Siitä on musiikkiteatterista. Ja sen takia sinne päädyin musiikkiteatterista. Mä yritin näyttelijäksi, mä taistelin. Ja mä niin ajattelin, mutta sitten mulla vaan tarjottiin. Niin sitten mulla se oli
Mutta joo, koska sitten siinä on just se, että tietty mä ymmärrän myös niitä oppilaitoksia teknologiaa, jossa on tietty taso. Se voi olla nyt, ainakin aivan usein. Niin mä katsoin Amerikan tuolla Erkki Kemänen. Tai siis alkaen, se oli hauska.
Ei kahvia.
Huomattavasti tärkeää. Eikö siis niistä puhutaan epäjärkisestä?
Mä ihan siis. Yeah, I haven't called myself have a reputation.
It is cool. No siis, tosiaan äiti on identtinen kanssa.
Joo.
Ja ne on molemmat klassisia muusikoita.
Onko ne amerikkalaisia? Ei.
Siis Kati on Amerikassa, äiti on täällä.
Niin.
Mutta siis äiti, niin kuin se on varmasti 3/3 mun lapsuudesta, niin me oltiin siellä esiintymässä. Se oli aina niin kuin esiintymässä.
Niin just.
Kesälomia ei ollut olemassakaan.
Joo, no ei vähän niitä aikaa, mutta joo.
Ja siis ei siinä mitään, mutta tosiaan niin sit se, että vähän yli puolet Suomesta asuu siellä.
Joo.
Niin mulla oli itse asiassa vähän enemmän siellä se septyentää. Niin se oli tosiaan sitä.
Joo, okei. Just. Joo.
Mutta sitten siinä oli loistavaa siinä oli se, että mä olin aina vähän yksin. Mä tulin takaisin tänne, niin kavereilla oli, vaikka oli kavereita, niin niillä oli uusia kavereita. Mutta sitten mä menin siihen, että niillä oli uusia kavereita, niin mä olin jätsin. Siinä oli äärettömän paljon elämässäni oman polun tallominen ei tullut mitenkään. Siis se on itse asiassa, mä katsoin sen äärettömän. Että mulla ei ikinä semmoista.
Eikö se näy?
No your situation.
It's the only word I kind of. And vesi, water. This. These. Vesi in Finnish. That's the. These are like puppet theater size microphones. I love them. Puppet size. It went a bit longer than 5 minutes. Sorry. Do you speak Icelandic?
We do, yes.
I'd like to learn it, but it's difficult.
Do online lessons if you want. But I think my grammar is terrible.
But I'd like to learn many languages, but I'm not very good at. I'm a bit too
I'll try
short-tempered to blah.
Please carry on. I'm going quickly.
Okay. So, everyone is back. Thank you. So the first part, we mainly discussed contemporary children's culture and through literature and performance and connection to puppetry and digitalization. I would like to address the audience. Do you have anything that you would like to add to the topic? Maju?
It's Maju from Finland.
Maju, can you hear her?
Yes.
Okay, greetings to Helga and us. So I have been working within puppetry since 1981, quite a long time, and I have seen children and performances and people and so on. And I don't think the children have, their brain hasn't changed. The brain is same, but the pace of life is different. But when I go to performances and meet people, I always am so enchanted about the magic of puppetry, which I see catches all people. If the performance is okay. But if the performance is too much based on literature, it has too many words, spoken performance. No way. It's 12 to 13 minutes. I have seen thousands of performances in my theatre, and it's 12 to 13 minutes. After that, no interest. It's dull in a way. Of course, it depends on the dramaturgy. You have to make this, drama very well to catch the interest within the performance. But the children are so wonderful at all ages. Teenagers is a bit different. we know. But anyhow, and when you're talking about ADHD and the, how should I say, people cannot concentrate. It's not true in theatre. Our theatre used to have it in the 1980s and in the 1990s certain special children who came from all kinds of institutions, with all kinds of things. Some were making loud noises and some were but when they came to our theatre, and you remember Timo, our Sirpa, the legendary solo puppeteer, she was very calm. We were all calm outside the door as well, and the whole environment was sort of inviting. This is peaceful, but the performance might have been very exciting and so on. Even the other adults who are with problems sometimes, the children's groups, they also relaxed. Because we sort of took them from the front door. We had this atmosphere. Peaceful, welcome, and you are precious to us. And some teachers asked us, what are you doing? It's our children who cannot sit peacefully. They just sat 40 minutes. We are making theatre. We are storytellers, and these about literature. It has been also wonderful to see whether some parents in the school they have read some books for children, and then they sit alive on the stage. Hey, I know this guy. It's very important, this kind of approach as well. And nowadays, since I'm already a grandmother, I have seen the new generation growing up. And I'm so happy that they have been introduced to arts, literature, and theatre and music. But I think it's a privilege nowadays, for in Finland and maybe in other countries, because the state is cutting down everything. And I live in a very poor suburb, which is quite different from this part of city. And in 20 years, there has been no theatre, no music, nothing in the schools. Kindergartens have a song puppetry performance every 7 years. But, the poor people have different kind of thing. And we have introduced, I'm also in some cultural projects, we have introduced baroque music in our Finnish Baroque Orchestra. They come one at a time or four. They play the tunnel which leads to the railway, one violinist. We took them to the library and I saw the audience, which is multicolored nowadays. And there are 24 languages in our school. They were one brown girl, and he was playing bass. And then afterwards, she asked the violinist, "What is this machine?" Think about that. And we took them orchestra and violins everywhere, in the parks and whatever. And there were also adults who had never heard it.
So that was the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you to know that the culture and politics and whatever are changing is going more and more to all kinds of places, which you have done, of course, as puppeteers. But there are some kind of shadow places as well. Now, we're starting next year, 5 to 10 years, a project in the suburb of it. And we are introducing culture seriously and offering all kinds of activities for children and unemployed people and whatever. So we are trying now. Maybe we get another kind of generation now, which is sort of showering in culture. This is very important. Remember, all people are very important. But anyhow. Okay.
I'm going back to the literature topic and puppetry. Sorry, anyone else from the previous topic? Would you like to add from the audience? Oh, I would I would let you, because then after I might direct the conversation to another direction.
Hello everybody. I am Sarah and I am from Iran. I don't know you know my country, but I know you hear every day about my country in news. I think we are in part of history. We passed modernism and we are in postmodernism. But I'm not worried about kids. For example, social media or everything, Instagram, because I think those are magic. Theater is a magic art, and every person, when sit in and see stage, it's magical. I have some of my dogs, for example, maybe.
Lovely.
It's a little, just a little fabric, it's just a little fabric, but it has energy, it's magic, he has power, Yay! And for example, this little girl, I think she can speak with you. And it's what in my luggage. Okay. They are very small and they are very simple, but they have very energy, And I think it it is just our responsibility, and the government has a responsibility to show this to people and kids. I have a little girl, and she's so many modern, and I don't know how she learned these things. She can use and do with computer very fast. But I take her to theater every month, and she stay and just quit all of the time, and she like it. And I'm not worried about it. I think we have artists and puppetry and governments, all of has a responsibility just to show people, kids, this.
The power of puppetry.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
Sorry
you.
if I-
No, it's amazing. I love.
May I ask one thing? You know, there's a Puppeters Association, Union Mubarak.
Yo.
No, it's your association.
Yeah.
That's the name of the women.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a very big festival, Mubarak, in Iran. Maybe you heard about my country, just about politics, how it's very Islamic, how it's a war about Israel or Palestine. But people are
That's the media,
different. We are different. We are 90 million people, and we have a very big culture before this government come, because they come just 40 years. But we have 2,000 culture.
A huge tradition in puppetry.
And our neighbors, for example, all of Arab country, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkey, Dubai, and United Arab. It's a huge culture. And I want to tell you, people are different. We are very big artists, and we have a very big festival about puppet, and just it. I think they are magic.
They are.
Okay.
And that was actually just a perfect transition to the second part, because the second part conversation, I wanted to draw attention to the educational opportunities of puppetry and the power of puppetry. Because as soon as I touched the puppets, yes, I really felt the energy.
They are like diamond. They have an energy, and I think technology, it's not, it can't. I think art is win. Finally, art is win.
Or we need to find a way to combine technology with puppetry, like you mentioned the Star Wars movies. That's a very good way to combine it.
Can I quickly, just on that I kind of feel like when you pick up an instrument, if you pick up a violin, a real instrument, it's very similar to picking up a puppet. It feels like it's meant to do something. But I think also the caretaking from a pedagogical view, that we take care of the fact that going to just slightly expanding on puppetry and music into singing and acting is that it's the humans who create the art, whether it's with an instrument or with themselves and you become the instrument, or with a puppet, and the puppet is the actor, or you are the actor, is that, again, like I said earlier, that I try to create just a positive experience with creating music, that even if the future, because we can't control it, unfortunately. That was genuinely bizarre, because there isn't a dog here.
Icelandic dog.
There's a dog. You can all hear that, right? That was, oh, wow. That was, yeah, sorry. And then the dog came. No, sit. No, that to take care of, from a pedagogical view, of reminding that it isn't a technical execution, and whilst you might want to reach excellent levels of technical execution, it's ultimately making music, it's bringing the puppet alive, and whilst the digital things are coming, maybe music will go towards, I can't control it, that you press a button and music happens. At least there's a dog now that people can see.
What's your dog's called?
Helper, he's happy.
Hello. Welcome. What does your doggy think about the topic?
It's very angry, but no.
Agrees.
There was a raven outside. He was very excited about the raven.
And Michael was talking about the relation to puppets and music. I do agree that puppets
Just
some sort of
wanted
instruments.
you just wanted to finish with that if it does go digital, because it's changing, because we can't stop the fact that people will wear glasses, and what's happened between 2000 and 2025, 100 years from now, we can all kick and scream and cry, but the now 5-year-olds will be in control of everything. Well, actually, they won't be in 100 years, but their children and so on. And it's going the way it is, but to keep music and puppetry and things, like you suggested, that maybe the digital, maybe that's partially the modern puppetry, the virtual puppets,
Yeah.
but something to keep people creating magic, even if it turns that music is pressing a button and an orchestra plays, because it's still the human's ear and the soul, I believe, that decides what the computer should do to create the art. That even if the means change a lot, and I hope it doesn't change that much, but it's still trying to nurture the young generations to appreciate that ultimately it's the end result, the music or the puppetry or the picture or the painting that matters, even if the brush has changed completely with the painter to another tool. It's still the end result, like creating the art, and the art for being art, for whatever that's worth. Anyway, carry on.
There is the art side of puppetry, but do you feel that what unique educational value does puppetry offer that other art forms, storytelling or music or even teaching, it can be an art form too, the teaching as well. So what unique educational value does puppetry offer that other art forms or the education by itself doesn't? Anyone?
So I happen to be studying to be a theatre pedagogue at the moment, so this interests me a lot, pedagogy in general. I think what is so great about puppetry is that it combines all the other art forms, not maybe all, but like in general. So I think it should be used in schools much more. Or I think, to me, puppetry is about really using your imagination. It's kind of, that has no boundaries in a way, what you can do with puppets. So this is what I would like to have more in education, in kindergartens, and like sort of use imagination more in how to learn things.
You use multiple art forms, don't you? Like music or
Yeah,
puppetry itself.
Puppetry it is, but I like, so I think, and this is what I'm going to study during my studies in my thesis or graduation work, is the combination of different art forms and learning and how to make it a game. But let's not talk about it, it's still in the making. But I'd like to combine like games and art forms.
Okay.
And a learning process. This is what I'm...
No, that can be some sort of future of puppetry or combining with
could
games.
be.
Do
Just
you-
like in your book, like you can choose which page you go to. So I'd like to combine a game where you can you throw a special dice, which is big, of course, and then that shows the way where the activity continues. But in general, to put it short, I think imagination should be used more in any education. But yeah, but it's
Do you think that puppetry helps children to process their emotions
Yeah.
or their struggles?
definitely
How?
yes.
And why?
Oh, that is a difficult question. Maybe
I'm not
pass
wise
the
about
mic.
Kirsti Huukka was a puppet builder. She's dead already now, but she was very active in the 70s, 80s. And she always talked about that, how a puppet can teach empathy.
Yeah.
Is the right word, empathy.
Empathy.
And it is maybe, I think it's true, but it is still true that, and it's the same in theater. If we look at the theater and we somehow feel empathy to a person there, a character. So that's why maybe puppets has this superpower in children culture. They really feel that this little character that I could help that character. And so it's somehow more neutral than a human actor. That's all. I think that's always the same to me. That I feel that it is still a good idea about puppetry.
I think because it's I think because it's slightly removed from you, because it isn't an inanimate object, it allows you to explore more complex emotions and social issues, because it is removed from you. Do you know and it's almost inherent in the way we play as children, we explore our place in the world, the things we're seeing around us through play, and puppetry is just an extension of that allows us to play through these scenarios in a childlike way.
We have a
Hey,
audience
my name
member.
is Johanna Tahtera. I'm a music pedagogue. I have started teaching something like 1990, and I must say children are changed from that beginning. And also I've been as a art pedagogue in kindergarten 7 years. So teaching music and all kinds of arts and taking children who have some difficulties to come together in a group. And now I have been 2 years as a kindergarten teacher. And children who are under 6 years old, they think that everything has a soul. So puppets are very, very important things in kindergarten. And it's so bad nowadays, many kids don't have dolls. Something they don't have. They have cars or no, not dolls. But we use lots of paper puppet dolls are easy to do with children when they have some difficult things where to do. So we do it with dolls there and what happens, and they can tell us what they want to do and what's right and what's wrong. And of course with books, I use lots of, if children have difficulties to sit where I use dolls, maybe I take a picture of that and do it like a doll and they come to inside of that. Very easy.
Do you play stories or do you use puppets to express children's emotion and challenges?
Yeah, also that, yes. With many kind of things, dolls are very good.
Yeah.
To use. And they live when we have something, oh, what's she saying?
Yeah, thank you. Anyone?
As a non-puppeteer, I have to say that for me, one of the aspects is the physical kind of creation. Music is like books, paintings, photography, sculpture, architecture, whatever you want to classify in, it can create your own stories, but the strange thing is that when something actually comes to life, it's almost like, I really don't mean to belittle any other art form ever, and I don't. But there is a strange aspect of puppetry where something actually physically comes alive in front of you. And I think it's an added element where you might look at a picture and create the story in your mind. You might hear something and imagine something, feel something, but when something actually comes to life, it's almost like a living being, even if you know that someone's operating it, or even if you are, like you said, very few dolls these days, but even we had as kids little, even toy soldiers, but they were like humanoid looking little things. It's like when you watch a child with a pet, an actual living thing that thinks, looks at you, and then there's suddenly a different, we very often go, oh, the cat is so sad now, and we have no idea whether the cat is sad, but we can live our things through because it's somehow a more physical manifestation of, and I think in that sense, going through emotions, and since we do learn life through playing things out, playing school with other kids, or by yourself, more difficult things with a living kind of thing. I think that's one of the sources of power of puppetry, because I certainly feel it, even as an adult, that it's just magical, that as if something actually came to life right in front of me, physically, in the physical world. And I think that's the added element that changes, that slightly separates it from the other. That's not belittling the other art forms, but it's something physical in your real world that you can touch.
Yeah, according to my experience, it's definitely when children use puppets and then they express their challenges, their problems through puppets, they can open up so much easier, because obviously when you have to talk, that's your existence. It's not easy to talk about certain problems, or if you see children, then they don't even understand the emotional aspects of issues. So then obviously they can leave it through easier. My personal aspect to puppetry, I always felt some sort of godlike, if I may say this, power in my hands when I try to animate or make puppets come alive. And then I think that's everyone experience, children experience exactly the same when we play with puppets. That's the same that kids grab a toy, even just a block or a mug, and then they transfer their thoughts, their emotions through that object. And I think this is the magic of this art form.
Yeah, but we also do in music school, we have music theater, and there it changes. You have to do it differently. It changes. I have a teacher who has done with children, they take their teddy bears. They were 10 years old or something, but they had all teddy bears. So they shows with them, and it's easy to use, but they make their own dolls and they show what they want to do in theater, but we have to teach them what to do. Otherwise, it's saying that they see here TV, so I think so. You have to teach what to do and how to go, and then comes there are very something I use to teach in siis tabletilta.
From tablet.
Yeah, yes. There's something you can draw where Andre comes first and second, and what happens to the end, and you do that, and after that it's much easier. So this modern technology came there to help do this. But when I show puppet theater and something else theater, living theater, I don't know what to choose. if they ask me on role. And when I think now my grandchildren are under school age, and we have been, of course, in many other theaters, but when they come bigger, so what comes there? What will be interesting for them? I don't know nowadays. Something there are in public theaters there are shows for bigger ones, but I'm not sure are they so vetänyt paljon if they taking so much people to learn, or are they just going to schools, but nowadays schools don't have money and kindergarten no money.
Nekem is abban voltam.
She also has some thoughts on the topic.
Az egyik az, hogy a bábszínház varázsa szerintem képes megtartani az igazi valósághoz való kapcsolódás esélyét, hogyha mondjuk otthon, vagy mondták, hogy a szülők is már ezt csinálják, tehát hogy arra egy tök jó dolog.
So the magic of the puppet shows also help for the people to keep the connection with their reality. So it gives a different experience for the people.
És a másik, ami szerintem fontos lehet a biztos, tehát a digitális világ veszélyeit például a bábszínházzal nagyon jól meg lehet mutatni. Ha ismered a két kecske ide, akkor beüti a farkasra a lábát, és akkor beengedi ide.
Hungarian.
Lehet mondani? Okay. Szóval az, hogy a megelőzésben, tehát a biztonsági dolgokban, mert a bábszínházzal be tudod mutatni mondjuk a digitális világ veszélyét, hogy nem az van ott valójában, mint akit te látsz. Például szerintem tök jó lett.
So in Hungary there is like a tale, a story, when there are like small goats inside the house and there is a wolf outside and slightly slits in the paw of it, and the goats believe that it's one of them, so they let it in. So the puppetry and the puppet shows also help to introduce the dangers of the digital world, and it helps for the people to learn that sometimes it's not the reality what's there, and maybe something else is waiting for you when you're using the digital tools and you are living in that world. So the puppet shows helps to build up like a safety net for the people and to be more cautious about the world around them.
I found this a very, very interesting, intriguing idea, because the story that Nori was talking about is a Hungarian folk tale. And it's what she suggested, that through stories you can make connection between or raise attention to the digital world's dangers. But also I can see another very interesting aspect, which is bringing old folk tales to modern theater and using the old stories, showing new problems, because ultimately that's kind of the same core problems are emerging, just we are living through different mediums, the same problems. Mm-hmm. And Nori, you've collaborated on projects where books, music, and puppetry meet. What have you learned about children's learning styles through this kind of multisensory storytelling?
Szóval részletél olyan fajta együttműködésében, ahol a zene, a színház és a irodalom összejön, és amit vettél észre, hogy változnak a tanulási folyamatok a gyerekekben?
Ez egy nehéz téma, mert igazából megváltozott körülöttük a világ, ahogy ezt így megállapítottuk. És más ingerek érik őket, máshogy kell feldolgozni. Például azt nem tudom, hogy a szövegértési problémák is vannak, legalábbis a gyerekek nagy részénél. És ez megnehezíti mondjuk azt, hogy alapvetően a szöveg részét egy előadásnak hogy írt meg, de itt jön a bábszínház varázsa, amit mondott is ő, hogy nem szöveg kell, hanem inkább az előadással, az energiájával kell. Tehát ez szerintem például egy nagyon tipikus dolog most, hogy a szöveg az nem kell, hogy annyira sok, legyen, inkább az energia, meg az elmondhatott részek, mert egyszerűen az nem köti le.
So there are many impulses affecting the kids nowadays, and there is an issue with reading comprehension. So to actually understand the words that written down. So the puppetry and the puppet shows help for the kids and for the people to actually understand what is meant between the words, and it creates like a easier path for the kids to like really understand it, and to basically so to make it more interactive and having some actions and some explanations by gestures helps the kids to understand, and it overcomes the difficulty of the reading comprehension that sometimes applies.
Okay, along this path, I've got a question to Timo. How can cultural institutions or educational institutions incorporate the use of puppetry in education, especially when it comes to teachers' training or resources?
Well, I don't know anything about how nowadays the teachers are trained. I don't know, but it used to be that puppetry or theater was part of their education in some years ago. I don't know, is it nowadays anymore? And so because I think it would be good that teachers could use puppetry very everyday life, like you have used puppetry in a way, like maybe it's a little bit cliche. Maybe it comes from South Park. This teacher who has puppetry in his hand. What is the name of it?
I don't remember.
But because hand puppets are marvelous, aren't they?
Yes.
Aren't they? They are. But there could be like really. Maybe it starts from there. I don't know. Or maybe puppeteers could somehow develop their knowledge how to.
Could Unimo help?
Unimo could help, maybe some kind of project that artists could go to schools and somehow or school artists or something that they could show in general way. I have trained some teachers or library workers for using puppets simply way, just very simple ways. What is the main things? You don't have very technically challenging puppets. It can be almost like a teddy bear or something, like just animate teddy bear or that kind of. It's not so serious to use them, and children are very charmed if they're a common puppet there in the room. They have it. Maybe it has a name and it lives somewhere, and every time it comes up in a good moment. Maybe you have a lot of experience about this kind of.
But I think that in schools, if there would be, it would be very good way to show our cultures, our culture. I have dolls with Kalevala, and I take with them Kalevala plays and so you can teach lots of things with dolls. It would be very good.
Yeah.
Ask money to them and maybe do books, and you can live there, stories and live there and help children to understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is maybe a lot of teachers who use puppets, but also a lot of maybe younger teachers who don't have that kind of feeling that to take puppets somewhere. Maybe they do something else. I don't know.
I've been working in the comprehensive school quite a lot lately. I mean, and I don't know if there were many puppets around, but whatever. Was like, I'm going to do as I said, I'm studying theater pedagogy, the theater academy at the moment, and I'm going to do my second teaching practice so that I would like to teach the teacher students in OKL. I don't know what's OKL in, but that's the institute where they train teachers in Helsinki. So I could find out if there's any puppetry. But I'm personally I'm interested. I love teaching any age group of people, but I have realized that I would like to teach the ones who teach and try to influence them to use more imaginary things
If I'm not
in their
mistaken,
teaching. But I'm afraid there's not very much of that. But please.
if I'm not mistaken, there is a shift, there is a conscious effort from the government to involve more art in education. Probably, do you think, Timo, then that would be some good way to work on governmental level and try to make some changes?
Maybe that would be good, but I don't know what is exactly there in this government. What does it have about his mind? But that might be good. Well, of course, there is a lot of discussion. Everyone is fighting therefore the mathematics, many things that there's not enough mathematics and not enough Finnish language, not enough gymnastic. So it's like fighting and everything is changing all the time. But maybe there could be like project by project maybe to somehow influence that they are not losing it. Theater, maybe we can discuss also about theater and about the inside of it. And it was in 90s when there was this teatteri-ilmaisun ohjaaja education started. There was a plan that in schools theater would be really like one
theater and dance.
Theater and dance. That is, each schools had theater and dance teachers, but then they
I think it's officially written in the plan, but it's kind of decided that it would be more and more, but I don't think it hasn't really realized.
Yeah.
Great. So what's the situation in Iceland?
Yeah. Yes.
In terms of education. Yes. Yeah.
I think it's quite widely used in like a nursery school level. I know one of them was just doing maybe 2 years ago teaching nursery school teachers about using puppets in storytelling. And I know that it's used in some sort of social outreach context. So I know that there's some context for it being used with adults and young people who are having mental health difficulties. And also in Swedish here that is working with immigrant families, working with Icelandic as a second language, using puppetry as a tool for exploring stories in that context. But I think it's really underdeveloped here. I'm not sure how conscious the effort is to get into the education system. We've also been experiencing since the banking crisis all those years ago, a lot of the culture of schools were cut and they never heard of picking down since. So I think we're in a position where we're actually seeing the impact of having a lack of cultural opportunities mandated through schools, starting to see that in the younger generation that's coming out of school. They don't have the, I suppose, cultural knowledge of the previous generation. So I think there's for reducing it into the schools. I think on the nursery school level, it's pretty safe. There's a lot of programs toward nursery schools, so they have a lot of engagement with it. But as an art form used for education of the older than 5 years old, I'm not sure.
I experienced a couple of times that, yes, puppets are present in nursery life, but not every nursery teacher knows how to engage with puppets. And then so many instances puppets are just thrown into the corner.
Mhm.
And then I think that would be something that us puppeteers, if we could organize some sort of effort to help teachers to be brave enough to grab the puppets. And because in theory, I'm pretty sure that everyone understands.
Yeah, going back to what many people have now pointed out, money.
Yeah.
Money seems to decide an awful lot of things in life. But also the threshold, like you said, a lot of educators don't feel comfortable. And I feel like there could be a concerted effort to lower the threshold of you need to be this good. Because it even applies to music, it even applies to other disciplines where teachers feel like they need to somehow be of a level before they can just introduce it. Just introduce it. It doesn't need to be diploma level music teaching. It could just be enjoying music and you can teach it. It's okay. It doesn't need to go right. You don't need to fill in the criteria of a higher education level teaching. It could just be, and I think sometimes that the thing is then the institutions go, okay, so then they need to take a course, which is money, at which point the government goes, well, maths and history and things are more important. We don't have the money for that course because the course is too extensive to just introduce it. Whereas if educators just felt comfortable grabbing it, then it could start, at least kickstart it.
Here we could combine the modern digital technology and puppetry. Why not having sort of online courses for teachers of how to, like the basics of how to manipulate a napkin, starting from any object that you could use as a puppet, and then some simple hand puppets maybe, or how to use a jug for some character. I don't know, but their technology could step in, and maybe there could be could be in a shape of a game. You could choose from different options of how to. I don't know, but that could be.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't be so via that one could reach any teacher who is interested. Of course, we should raise the interest too, but that could be something. So let's start applying for money. Why not?
I think it's very good way for puppeteers to ask money to do, because learning by doing is nowadays and if you do some things what you can learn with puppets. So it goes like tablets, or you can have the dogs going there and learning things and mixing it with books, school books. Okay, so.
I think we kind of agree on lots of things. Oh, sorry.
So I'm not a puppeteer. I'm an artist in a way, but I have the privilege of living in different cultures, and the puppets are universal in a way. And I'm kind of thinking of here. When I was a child, I don't think the schools had so much money either. But then it was lovely when we went to somewhere and there was a puppeteer or there was something. We went to different places. So actually the puppeteers don't actually need to go into the schools, but you could actually have something like where the schools could come. And then also that I have the feeling that, for example, the 3D and everything, the modern technology is very limited still. Yeah. So I would suggest that let's let it develop in a way that it will, but with the puppeteers, maybe what was the last thing that you were trying to talk about? The teaching, or how about if the teaching with the puppeteers would be for maths, for Finnish language, or English language or something, so that the puppeteering would be part of
the educational way of
That's
delivering it.
It's a tool, yes.
Yes, just a classroom tool.
Yes,
for the teachers to
absolutely.
grab, yeah.
Because puppets grab attention.
And I think partly there's an internal battle. In the UK, I experienced that, for instance, music academies were suddenly hit with regulations that in order to call yourself an academy, the government started dictating you have to meet this and this criteria, which I understand we're trying to ensure a level of education which is great, but at the same time it can be a hindrance where it then raises the bar where, well, you can't use this unless you meet this level of criteria, and which is this expensive. And then there can be, because like when I went to school, and in London, some of the best actors in the world, in my humble opinion, have come from drama academies where you didn't get a degree. You got a diploma of that particular academy. And some magnificent Central School of Speech and Drama, Judi Dench, graduated from there, who is now Dane. I think she did okay as an actor, actress, or whatever you call it these days. That was just a diploma. It was just Central School of Speech and Drama's diploma. There was no, oh, this is a bachelor's degree level, but they were allowed to teach the way they teach. And I think it's good to keep the governments in check to not over-regulate, so that you can't bring puppetry into education unless it meets university standards or something very, ultimately very vague and very, what is university?
In most instances, the practical experiences and the teaching was based on the practical execution, or the academies provided enough opportunity to try out things for students, while according to my experience, universities are mainly on theoretical and essay writing level. I think it's a very hard and...
Well, it's that thing of ultimately the children should be the judge of whether you're doing puppetry well in a classroom, because they'll either respond or they won't, and it doesn't really matter what your education said that how well you're doing any form of art. If the children are into it, you're good at it. It's I think it's a very valuable.
I think also on this, if you think about the level of education or something, then at the moment, or in many schools, it's really, they take everything that is online. It's kind of the level. What is the level of the teachers didn't, I don't know if they now know, but in the beginning everyone was learning what to use from the internet, what to use, what kind of digital. So in that sense, it's kind of the puppeteers and how to set the level.
It is very difficult. It is very challenging because
and nowadays you can learn everything from online. So how you can ensure that what level is that?
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyone else has? I know that this is a very hard topic, and then we approached puppetry from literature and connecting to different art forms, and then now we discussed the educational opportunities puppetry, and then knowing us, we could go forever with these conversations, but I think that at this point I have to say thank you for all that you attended. I feel that it was an amazing conversation, and it was a rich and inspiring exchange. I hope that today's conversation encourages everyone to carry on with puppetry or trying out puppetry and advocate it. Thank you so much for all to come and took part in this conversation.
And thank you to Liszt-instituutti.
Thank you so much for Liszt-instituutti providing this wonderful opportunity.
Mark.
Mark for the translation, and Nora Szegedi, Hungarian author, Timo Mánti from Unima, Finland, Mila Riszkó, puppeteer educator, Michael, musical director and artist, as a moderator, and Greta Klav from Iceland Unima, puppeteer. And I recommend everyone, if you have a chance to visit Iceland, go to see Handbendi Puppet Theatre Cultural Center. It's a wonderful place. Greta lives in Wonstangi. Did I pronounce well?
Really? Wonstangi,
Yeah. It's a lovely artist residency and cultural center.
And of course, thank you, Erzsébet Tomáš,
Yes.
an artist and an educator, and member of Unima Finland as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the wonderful audience and your
Yes.
participation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings to Iceland.
Greetings to Iceland.
Nice to see you all. Thank you for today.
See you again.
Oletko sä käynyt Islannissa?
En valitettavasti ole. Haluaisin
Mietin,
mennä.
että pitäisi keksiä joku pronkki, että saisi
Ja pitäisi joo. Siellä on se residenssi.
Niin, pitäisi kehittää joku pedagogia. Ai, mähän olen siis opettanut. Ootas nyt.